They are removing our stories and our history. They are removing our names from government buildings. It's as if someone wants to erase our footprints.
I think, I think she does need Harry, I think she does. And she must know by now that she doesn't get everything right.
Yeah, so we're behavior experts.
We all knew the BET Awards would bring fireworks, but what we didn't see coming was Tyler Perry, Hollywood's quiet giant, stepping onto that stage and dropping what felt like a live detonation aimed at none other than Meghan Markle. The room fell silent as Perry, the man known for his generosity and drama-free demeanor, delivered a carefully crafted speech that sent shockwaves not just through the audience, but through Hollywood itself. And the Duchess of Sussex? Well, she was the unspoken subject of what might be the most unexpected fallout of the year.
When you have people like Oprah and Meghan Markle in a room like this, coming out just for you, not anyone else, but just for you, what does that moment feel like to receive that level of support?
Just to have people show up for you the way you showed up for them, it means the world. So I'm floored, I'm honored, I'm trying to hold it all together and take it all in.
Perry started slow, almost poetic, recounting a story about walking along the beach with his son, but then the tone shifted. His words became sharper, heavier. Some folks borrow blessings like they're owed, but never return the favor, he said, his voice calm but cutting. He didn't have to say her name. We all knew exactly who he was talking about. The crowd, frozen in a mix of awe and disbelief, hung on to every word because this wasn't just a speech. This was Tyler Perry, Hollywood's nicest man, breaking his silence. And when a man like Perry speaks, it's not just a whisper. It's a thunderclap. Let's rewind. The world remembers the chaos of 2020, when Meghan Markle and Prince Harry dramatically stepped back from royal duties, fleeing to the United States in search of freedom. They were stranded, vulnerable, and alienated from the royal family. And who stepped in as their savior? Tyler Perry. He didn't just offer them a hand, he handed them the keys to his $18 million Beverly Hills mansion, shielded them with private security, and gave them refuge when no one else would. At the time, it seemed like a fairy tale friendship, a powerful Hollywood mogul rescuing the exiled royals. But now Perry's speech has revealed an entirely different story, one that Meghan probably didn't want us to hear.
It hasn't been a good beat weekend for Meghan Markle, however, as there is growing speculation that she was asked not to appear on stage with her apparent BFF, Tyler Perry, at the Paley Center Honors.
For Perry, the cracks started to show not long after he opened his doors. Insiders say that what began as a gesture of goodwill quickly snowballed into a one-sided relationship where Perry gave and gave, while Meghan took and disappeared. At first, Perry brushed it off. He's known for being generous, for helping people in need. But even the most giving hearts have limits, and Meghan, it seems, crossed every line. The whispers of entitlement, of manipulation, of ungratefulness begin to creep in. And then came the private jet incident. Picture this. Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, calling Perry to request use of his private jet. Not for an emergency, not for a once-in-a-lifetime favor, but for what sources describe as a casual trip. Perry, for the first time, said no. He wasn't being stingy. This is a man with more money than most of us could imagine. But he declined because, according to those close to him, he was starting to feel used. Meghan's response? Allegedly, she lashed out, accusing him of being unsupportive and selfish. That was the moment Perry realized he wasn't dealing with a friend in need. He was dealing with someone who saw his generosity as a bottomless resource.
Very shocking and very embarrassing for Meghan, given she is on the committee of this event, but wasn't on stage with Tyler Perry. Yet Oprah was, Kerry Washington was.
And that's where the betrayal began to sting. Perry had given them everything, his home, his protection, even his name. But when the spotlight shifted back onto Meghan and Harry, Perry was left in the shadows, unacknowledged. No thank you speeches, no public gratitude, nothing. Instead, Meghan moved on, leveraging Perry's connections to secure deals with Netflix, Spotify, and other major players. She built her brand as an independent powerhouse while quietly leaving behind the very people who had helped her get there. So when Perry stood on that stage at the BET Awards and spoke about borrowed blessings, it wasn't just a speech, it was a reckoning. Hollywood insiders knew exactly what he was doing, and the fallout was immediate. Producers who had been circling Meghan and Harry's latest project started pulling out. One Netflix executive reportedly called Perry's words a wake-up call, saying, "If Tyler Perry feels burned, what does that say about the rest of us?" Deals that were once seen as surefire successes suddenly looked risky. Investors hesitated. Meghan's name, once a symbol of empowerment, was now a question mark.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm always cautious until I can watch the full event myself, because sometimes camera angles and everything sort of impact what you can see. But I found it really interesting to watch sort of her interaction with Tyler Perry on the red carpet because he seemed, I wouldn't say super engaged with her, super excited to interact with her. Once they had taken their pictures, he was like, I want to go over here. And I think they were just moving to take additional pictures at a different angle.
And the backlash didn't stop there. Former staffers from Meghan and Harry's team began to speak out, echoing Perry's unspoken grievances. One former assistant described working for Meghan as exhausting, claiming that she demanded loyalty without offering any in return. Another insider revealed that Meghan's obsession with control often derailed projects, leaving teams frustrated and disillusioned. And even Oprah Winfrey, once one of Meghan's staunchest allies, has reportedly distanced herself. Sources close to Oprah say there haven't been any friendly calls or collaborations between the two in months. It's as if Perry's speech opened the floodgates, and now everyone who had been holding back was finally ready to talk. But what makes this story even more compelling is the silence from Meghan's camp. Instead of addressing Perry's speech head-on, her team has been scrambling behind the scenes, trying to control the narrative. They've reached out to media outlets, offering exclusive interviews and behind-the-scenes access in exchange for positive coverage. But the damage is already done. Perry's words weren't just a critique. They were a mirror, reflecting the growing sentiment in Hollywood that working with Meghan Markle is more trouble than it's worth.
But I don't think he is super enthused by some of aspects of his relationship with Harry and Meghan, because I think in some ways as well, Meghan can be very demanding. Obviously, he lent them his home.
And let's not forget Harry. The prince, who once stood as Meghan's fiercest defender, has been eerily quiet throughout this entire ordeal. Insiders say he's torn, caught between his loyalty to his wife and his growing frustration with their tarnished reputation. For years, Harry has been fighting battles on Meghan's behalf, distancing himself from his family, his country, and even his closest friends. But now, with Perry's revelations casting a shadow over their carefully curated image, some are wondering if Harry is finally starting to see the cracks. The fallout isn't just professional, it's personal. Perry's decision to speak out has left Meghan isolated in a way she's never experienced before. Hollywood is a town built on relationships, and when someone as respected as Tyler Perry calls you out, even indirectly, it sends a message. The whispers in studio boardrooms, the side eyes at industry events, the sudden radio silence from former allies, it all adds up to one thing. Meghan Markle is no longer untouchable.
In some instances, it might have been a security team. He lent them his jet. And so he's lent them a lot of things. And you got to wonder sometimes if they start to ask for too much. And he's like, let's calm it down. But I don't think he was probably really wanting her on stage, because her being there, all the attention goes to her. And it was his night. And I'm sure he was not happy to have any of his attention stolen there.
And yet, despite the mounting criticism, Meghan has shown no signs of backing down. If anything, she's doubling down, pushing forward with new projects and public appearances in an attempt to reclaim her narrative. But the question remains, can she recover from this? Perry's speech wasn't just a moment. It was a tipping point, a crack in the foundation of Meghan's brand. And as Hollywood watches the fallout unfold, one thing is clear, this story is far from over. And just like that, the dominoes kept falling. Tyler Perry's words didn't just expose his personal grievances, they sparked a chain reaction that Hollywood hasn't seen in years. Industry insiders, producers, and even so-called friends began quietly backing away from Meghan Markle, leaving her increasingly isolated. It's one thing to lose a business deal or two, but when someone like Oprah Winfrey, the queen of influence herself, chooses silence, that's when you know the tide has truly turned.
Meghan Markle's podcast has ended its 8-episode run, and there are no plans to release a second season at this point. What a surprise.
For years, Oprah was Meghan's most visible ally, offering her platform, her friendship, and even her own reputation to support Meghan and Harry's narrative. Let's not forget that bombshell interview in 2021 that painted the couple as victims of royal oppression. Oprah's support seemed unwavering back then. But now, crickets. Not a word of defense, not a single post or interview to refute Perry's claims. Could Oprah be distancing herself to avoid being dragged into Meghan's unraveling story? Or is her silence a quiet condemnation of someone she no longer trusts? Either way, the message is clear. Meghan's inner circle is shrinking, and her most powerful allies are retreating into the shadows. For years, Meghan had cultivated an image of being a voice for the voiceless. But cracks in that narrative have been growing wider. Reports have emerged suggesting that Meghan's advocacy work often came with strings attached. Insiders claim that during her time as a royal, her charitable endeavors were more focused on optics than impact. One source alleged that Meghan routinely prioritized causes that aligned with her personal brand rather than those most in need of attention. This strategy, while effective for building public goodwill at the time, now feels hollow in the face of her mounting controversies. The question is no longer whether she supports important causes, but whether those causes were simply tools for her to climb higher on the social ladder.
So I think that, as we've spoken about, this show has completely underperformed. It did not really appear on the Spotify charts. This was, of course, the podcast that she made with Lemonada Media. It's still unclear, actually, about what money has come from this podcast. So originally, when she signed up with Spotify, there was money up front. That deal went south. She signed up with Lemonada.
And then there's the issue of Meghan's lifestyle brand as ever. What was once marketed as a bold, empowering venture for women has now become another source of criticism. Critics are calling out the brand for being more focused on profit than purpose, with products that are inaccessible to the very demographic Meghan claims to champion. The initial launch saw items sell out in minutes, but insiders say the sales were fueled by hype rather than substance. Customers have complained about the lack of transparency regarding future product availability, leading many to wonder if the brand's success is sustainable. Some investors have even started to worry that her tarnished reputation will drag the brand down with her, making it harder to attract long-term partnerships. Beyond the business world, Meghan's strained relationship with the British royal family continues to cast a long shadow over her public image. While she's made it clear she has no intention of returning to royal life, the fallout from her departure is still reverberating. Behind the scenes, palace insiders remain tight-lipped, but whispers of frustration have emerged. Some sources claim that Meghan's repeated public criticisms of the royal family have left the institution feeling blindsided and exhausted. Although Harry has tried to act as a bridge between Meghan and his family, many believe that the damage is irreparable. This ongoing rift has only added fuel to the narrative that Meghan isolates herself from anyone who doesn't fully align with her worldview.
Now, Harry and Meghan have also been accused of hypocrisy after they restructured their staff, creating what has been labelled the Montecito Royal Court. What does that mean, Kinsey? What's happening?
Perhaps the most fascinating and ironic development is Meghan's apparent shift toward emulating the very structures she once criticized. Her so-called royal court of staffers in Montecito has drawn comparisons to the operations of Buckingham Palace, a system she previously described as rigid and outdated. This new setup, which includes a hierarchy of communication strategists and advisors, is being viewed by critics as hypocritical. How can someone who rejected royal life for its formality and control now adopt those same principles to manage her own image? The parallels are impossible to ignore, and they're raising serious questions about whether Meghan ever truly wanted freedom or if she simply wanted her own kingdom to rule. And the cracks in Meghan's carefully curated empire don't stop there. Former staffers are speaking out, painting a damning picture of what life was really like behind the Sussexes' glossy public image. One former employee described working at Archewell as an emotional roller coaster, claiming that Meghan demanded absolute loyalty and punished anyone who dared to question her decisions. Another insider revealed that Meghan had a habit of burning bridges, using people for their connections or expertise, and then discarding them once they no longer served her narrative. It was like walking on eggshells every single day, they said, adding that the work environment was so toxic that turnover became a recurring problem.
If I were a troublemaker, I might accuse Harry and Meghan of unconscious bias in the employment department, looking at all the new faces that are coming onto work for Harry and Meghan independently and together for their entertainment ventures. And if history repeats itself as much as Harry whines that it does, both Harry and Meghan will continue to reject any and all sound advice and will potentially treat their staff poorly. So good luck.
This pattern of behavior isn't just limited to her staff. Hollywood producers who worked on Meghan's now defunct Spotify podcast have also come forward, describing how her obsession with control often led to delays and abandoned ideas. One producer bluntly stated she didn't want collaboration, she wanted obedience. And let's not forget the Netflix executives who are reportedly reevaluating their long-term commitments to the Sussexes. Rumors are swirling that Perry's speech was the final straw for some investors, who are now questioning Meghan's professional credibility. Deals that were once seen as golden opportunities are now being described as toxic liability. It's almost poetic in a way. Meghan built her brand on the image of empowerment, independence, and loyalty. But now, the very foundation of that image is crumbling. Perry's speech didn't just expose her. It revealed a toxic empire built on borrowed charm and empty promises, and the fallout is proving to be relentless. Sources close to Netflix have hinted that Meghan's latest documentary pitch, a project centered on power and influence, has been put on hold indefinitely. One insider even claimed that the project was sunk after Perry's comments, with executives expressing concerns about the potential backlash.
I did a story this week saying that Harry would never leave Meghan, but obviously they've had between them there's been a lot of sacrifices.
I think that they are dependent on each other though.
Yeah,
Totally. Well, that's what you said, Jack.
Yeah, I agree.
So we are in total agreement. They are very dependent on each other.
And while the professional fallout is devastating, the personal consequences are just as brutal. Meghan's reputation as a feminist icon and advocate for justice is now under intense scrutiny. Social media, once a powerful tool in her arsenal, is turning against her. Hashtags that once celebrated her now trend with biting sarcasm. Memes of her borrowing blessings have gone viral, with users mocking her for allegedly using people like stepping stones. Public sentiment is shifting, and even some of her most devoted fans are beginning to question the narrative they once wholeheartedly believed. But here's the thing, this isn't just about Tyler Perry's speech or a few disgruntled staffers. This is about a pattern, one that's been quietly unfolding for years. From the royal family to Hollywood, Meghan has left behind a trail of fractured relationships and unanswered questions. And now, with Perry breaking his silence, the world is starting to see the full picture. How many of her connections were genuine and how many were transactional? How much of her narrative was truth and how much was carefully crafted spin? These are the questions that everyone is asking, and Meghan's silence is only fueling the speculation.
Trolling of their husbands, Alec Baldwin's wife got this treatment the other day, Blake Lively as well.
And yet, there's one more layer to this story, one that could blow everything wide open. Rumors are swirling that Tyler Perry is considering writing a tell-all book about his experiences with Meghan and Harry. Imagine the bombshells he could drop. If his BET Awards speech shook Hollywood to its core, what could an entire memoir do? What other secrets is Perry holding back? And how much damage could they do to Meghan's already fragile reputation? The thought alone is enough to send shockwaves through the industry, and we can't help but wonder, is this just the beginning of the end for Meghan's Hollywood dreams? The truth is, Meghan's downfall is a cautionary tale, a warning to anyone who builds their brand on borrowed loyalty and half-truths. Tyler Perry's speech wasn't just a moment of personal vindication, it was a cultural reckoning, a reminder that even the most carefully curated images can crumble under the weight of truth. So the question remains, can Meghan recover from this? Or is her empire destined to collapse under its own weight?
Well, he wouldn't leave the children, you see. And in America, the rules about children, they're always with the mother, nearly always.
Yeah.
So I mean, so it's not going to happen. So do you remember where 5 years? Everyone, when they got married, a lot of members actually of the royal family even said it won't last 5 years, but it has.
It has.
Yeah.
It's
absolutely.
lasted 7.
Yeah.
Through a lot of crises, through a lot of
huge pressure.
Let us know what you think in the comments below. Is this the beginning of the end for Meghan Markle, or does she have one last card to play? We'll be watching closely as this drama unfolds, and trust us, this story is far from over. Until next time, stay curious and stay tuned.